Hello there, YouTube. May the 4th be with you. How are y'all doing today? Hope you guys having a fantastic day. Today we are checking out the most terrifying discoveries made by archaeologists. Now, if you guys want to see these done live, go to twitch.tv/snacksale or check out the links down below. And yeah, without further ado, let's do this.
I am sure you have all heard the question, what is the scariest animal?
I have.
It is one of the greatest icebreakers, at least in my opinion.
My thing is, like, I'm afraid of humans.
Or things such as
100%.
snakes, sharks, spiders,
animals are scary,
hawks,
but
bears.
Humans are unpredictable. If you guys ever answer that question with anything other than humans, man, y'all are crazy. Like I know there's, like, unless they're specifically asking for animals that are not humans, like anything that is excluded from humans, because we are one terrifying type of creature, and the reason is we are unpredictable as fuck. We act on emotion. We don't usually act on intelligence, but we are also intelligent creatures who can act on intelligence. We make decisions that we usually don't just want to make just because we're hot-headed, angry, sad, and it happens to be very terrifying because you never know what's going to happen when you're in the room with another human versus if you're in the room with another dog, or like if the dog is docile and it's calm, the dog isn't usually going to bite you. If the dog is a rabid dog or angry or not trained well, you know what's going to happen. You can always kind of predict these things with certain animals, but humans, unpredictable,
etc. Now, these answers are fair. They all can be quite scary.
But again,
really,
yeah, there's other things. Mosquitoes.
There's only one true answer.
True.
And no, it's not mosquitoes. Rather,
mosquitoes are scary in a certain.
No animal.
Like I said, I did pre-watch the beginning of this chat, so that answer was definitely dictated by that, but I would have said humans anyway.
35,000 people are killed by other humans. And mind you, this is not including war,
450,000
accidents, or the transmission of contagious diseases.
Okay, what I said originally before my OBS closed was that, yes, this sounds like a lot, and yes, this is a lot, but there are 8 billion people in the world. The likelihood that a million people, even if a million people killed each other, it would be awful. But brother, I promise you that, like, that number could be like way more. It could be way more. I'm not saying it's good that 450,000 people kill each other, but in a world where there's so many different people and diverse communities and people who act on emotion, people with mental issues, people yada yada yada, there's gonna be people who kill people. It sucks to say, it sucks to deal with, but that is the reality we live in. It does not matter unless our entire world was like ruled by the strongest person in the world who could literally teleport to you if you committed a single crime. It would be such an unreal and untrue statement to say that this world could ever understand peace because of how the human brain works and how some people are raised and just treated, and it's just not possible, chat. It's just not possible.
Which would then put the number in the many millions. And so not only can no other animal compare to this by numbers,
god damn, the snakes kill a lot,
not by brutality. Because without going into too much detail, I'm sure most of you already know how brutal
humans act on emotions.
However, for as bad things can seem today, in some ways, I much prefer the present over the past. As back in the day, people could be quite, out of control.
Brother, there was no rules. It was the strong live, the weak die. Do you think there would be any other reason for them to be civil? No, rules are what keep a place civil and like not a war zone. Everything was a war zone, and I'm genuinely curious to what we're gonna see in this, because I've heard some stories that are like based off of true historic stories, and man, bro, it gets brutal. But in all reality, like, human nature back then and just in general is the strong. It's I think it isn't like the saying, it goes like, the strongest man will survive. Like that's literally the concept. I don't know how to explain it.
There's no better evidence for this than real-life discoveries which document ancient human violence, which was in some cases so grim.
This is why I will say that, like, a lot of people nowadays take everything for granted. And I'm not saying you can't have the mindset of that there is still wrong in this world, like that mindset is bad. That is absolutely right. It is 100% valid for you to say, damn, like this, brother. But I will say though, brother, sister, people of the world, like 1,000 years ago, y'all would have been fucking dead. Boom. Oh my god, I can't believe he's doing that. Oh my god, she's doing that. Like, brother, shut the fuck up. Like, there are certain issues in the world that you can care about, that you can deeply have an emotional reaction to, but there are other ones where I'm just like, y'all are actually getting triggered over somebody not liking something that you like. Y'all are killing people over political views when a 1,000 years ago, political views weren't even an idea, because if you had 1 ounce of political view against your king or somebody else, you would die. Now, was that right? No, but the concept is you should be thankful for the world you live in now, because yes, people die for political views, people die for this and that, and that's what I was saying. It's wrong and it's fucked up, and if you get mad about somebody else having a bad political view, you're insane, because we live in a world where they're allowed to have that view and you're allowed to have your own view. You having your own view would have maybe gotten you killed back in the day, so you hating on somebody else for having their own view is not like the concept of it is just wrong. Hating other people is such a such a unanimous thing nowadays, to hate on every single aspect of life. They're like, oh my god, the US is so bad, oh my god, this other country is so bad, oh my god. Brother, you were lucky you were born nowadays, because you complaining like you're complaining would have been absolutely laughed at and ridiculed back in the day, bro. And I'm not saying that you're wrong for complaining like that. It's just some people take it to like this extent where it's just like, shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. You're complaining about nothing. Like, what you're complaining about has no value to this world. There are certain things that actually do matter that I do support, and it's fine to think about that. But sometimes I'm just like, bro, if only you understood what you have versus what you could have had.
But it honestly makes horror movies look like sunshine and roses. And a decent place to start is about just the worst time you could have spawned as a human. The Neolithic.
Yeah, this is like, yeah.
The New Stone Age.
This is like cavemen.
It's hard to describe this period in one word. But whatever that word is, it's not a good one. And that largely was because of us, with violence and war being the name of the game back then. In fact, the violence was so bad that it might have resulted in a drastic drop in population, literally hundreds of mass burials and sites of brutal violence that all trace back to this period. Yet, like everything, there were levels to the derangedness, with some sites being more plain, a simple blunt force.
Yeah, but he doesn't like the same president as me, and I'm never going to talk to him again. Yeah, but he doesn't agree with the same political stance as me, and we're never going to be friends because we can't look past that, and that's the only thing that matters in our personality. Yeah, he doesn't like the same animes I like, so I'm going to go ahead and never talk to him. And yeah, he has a different point of view on the world than I do, so I'm just never going to talk to him again, and this is the worst thing. I'm never going to talk to her again, by the way. It's not gender just specific, but I was on a roll with just saying her, so that's it. But there's just so many instances where this happens in this world, where we go ahead and latch on to the smallest things because we can't as humans fathom the factor that we actually do live good sometimes. I'm not saying everybody has a good life. I'm not saying everybody has to think like this. I'm not saying everybody should think like this. I'm saying that the people who do have good lives should stop taking that shit for granted and running that shit up their fucking asshole, because it literally just goes to show that you can't have anything nice in this world, because everybody will find a problem with every single situation and nitpick the smallest little details. No matter how good you are as a person, people will still hate on you and people will still despise you. And in this iteration, it's like these motherfuckers died probably because the other group didn't like the way they smelled. Nowadays, you can literally complain and call somebody the most heinous things and you will live. They can't do anything to you, and people still cry about how they live in the worst time period, how we're so unlucky. Brother, you would have died back then. Boom, gone off the face of this planet because you had one disagreement with somebody, because you were dating a girl who liked you and y'all were together and he liked that girl. You would fucking die. It's like it goes even worse beyond that, but I'm not even gonna get into that. Bro, that shit, it like fumes me, because I'm like, brother, we should be so thankful for the times we live in. Yes, we should go into the core of the corrupt and the wrong and go in on that, but there's just so many of the things that we care about that we shouldn't care about. Brother, who the fuck cares that you don't like the same thing I like, bro? Move on.
As victim here and there, while others make you want to go, what the freakosaurus. And one of the most horrifying sites yet is a place known as Herxheim. This archaeological site sits in the southwest of Germany, and is frankly a place you wonder if it would be best if it was never discovered, as it contains the remains of a pretty grisly massacre even by prehistoric standards, and is actually the largest ancient massacre site we know of, with there being at least 1,000 slain individuals that have been chucked into a series of pits that surrounded a then large settlement.
Even bigger than Holocaust?
And based on a few of the more intact
crazy
bodies found, it's been suggested that the dead have been offed by not one, but by a variety of different weapons. Gotta switch it up sometimes. But with stone axes
things would break and shit.
Quite prevalent, causing smashed skulls, broken limbs, and just in general, a whole lot of
fucking crikeys, man.
Playing on iPhone? Now you can play Unlocked on PC with Google Play Games. Unlock
trauma.
And people nowadays will say their life is awful because they don't have enough money to go buy their favorite bag. Oh my God. Jesus. People will get angry that they have the wrong car and complain that their life is miserable. This is ridiculous.
And let's just say absolutely no mercy was shown to the victims, as men, women, children, and even newborns were amongst the dead. And something else that was pretty unusual and grotesque about this place was that in the pits of the deceased, researchers wound up finding victims that belonged not to just one group, but multiple. The horrifying notion that Herxheim wasn't some aftermath of a battlefield or just a raid on a village.
These were evil motherfuckers.
Cult, which rounded up captives from across great distances before then taking them here to be quote-unquote silenced, or perhaps sacrificed.
Damn.
That alone should be enough to show the dark side of humanity, a sign that the killers have meticulously butchered, dismembered, and in some cases, freaking spit roasted these poor people.
Yeah.
And all this might have been done for a feast.
Yeah.
As across the bones, researchers found numerous
I didn't
signs
really
of biting
doubt this.
and gnawing, reflecting cannibalism on a scale never seen before. And some of the bones were even more gnawed than others, suggesting that in this cult, the killers also had their favorite parts of the body, so to speak. And sadly, we don't really need our...
Brother. Yo, I don't know, man. I get like it's okay to live your life and that all your different emotional pain hurts you in a different way compared to other people. That's fine. But I hate when I hear people say, oh my gosh, we live in the worst time period. Dog, shut the fuck up. You are not a historian. Like, you are not a history buff. Like, you know nothing about this world. Your ignorance is genuinely bliss because you know nothing of what actually existed. Like, y'all are just so lucky, bro. Genuinely. Like, to have that way to look on the world as if like you have it the worst is just, honestly, I don't know if it's a gift or a curse because like you don't know anything about what actually existed.
Imagination to imagine what parts those were, as we are quite certain that one of the most prized parts turned out to be the noggin, i.e. the brain, as the majority of skulls were treated in the exact same manner, being that they had been struck along the sagittal line, splitting faces, mandibles, and skull caps, creating symmetrical halves, with a few also clearly having been skinned as well. How lovely. And after eating...
This is so fucked up, chat. Imagine like, oh my God. Oh God, this is not funny. It's funny. Like, what's funny to me is like people like this, like if they actually existed, from what we know, that is insane. Like, imagine you're with your group, you hear rumors about this group of people who like murder these people and eat them, and you're like, what? Like, no way, bro. And you're walking with your group, and then you just kind of in the distance, you see this person with like a hat on, and it's just another person's fucking skull bones, bro. Bro, what? Ooh, I don't even want to think about like somebody coming at you like that, bro. Like, I would just off myself. I'd be like, Mom, Dad, as they're just like, all right, son, because like you would not want to live, bro. No, bro. And there's no gun, so you can't just instant pop.
The brain contents for a good source of daily
oh my
fat.
God.
This cult would then take the vault of the skull and transform them into essentially skull cups, from which they would then drink, leading to another very pleasant idea that the victims were feasted upon while their killers drank from their literal skulls. Quite a horrifying thought, being eaten while someone uses your skull to quench their thirst. But with all this said, ultimately Herxheim was just one of numerous sites that demonstrated such behavior. But it definitely holds the crown when it comes to quantity and quality, so you could say.
Dude, it's the concept of that. First off, no law, no right or wrong. It was just this instance of what you grew up in was right. Imagine you grew up on an island, you had no knowledge of the world, right? Like, we're talking nowadays, 2026, you grew up on an island where they ate humans. Any human that came to the island got eaten, and that was your life. Like, oh my God, it's evil and it's wrong and it's so bad. But be like, oh, I don't even know how to put this into like words. They were wrong for doing this, and it's heinous and disgusting and fucked up, right? But what really, there was no dictation of what was right and wrong back then. It was just survival of the fittest. Like, you murdering another human was just a daily life. Like, humans back then killed each other all the time. Like, and this is just excluding the eating and the cannibalism. But like, if you're in a group and you can't get food, like, what stops you from eating another human back then? Like, and it's a deranged thought if you actually go into it and you're like, oh my God, you really think about eating? No, I don't think about eating another person. What I'm saying is you're in this time period where all you do is kill animals, build fortresses, and live. Like you fight to survive. And then you just go, wouldn't it be easier to just eat another human? Wouldn't it be easier just to use their bones? They're just like animals to me. Like, and I don't think in the I don't know if they really talked. I don't think they knew how to speak. I don't know if we know that for sure, but I've heard that they didn't really know to speak. Now, later on in life, when things just start to actually become like a society and you understand the world more and you see more people and you understand more, it becomes this concept of like, oh, this is wrong. Like we're doing wrong. But back then it's like, it's just like to them, they were animal. Like other humans to them were like animals. Like they were animals. They're animals. We eat deer. We eat lions. We eat like wolves. Like we eat all these different animals. So why not try? Like what is the difference between a human and a wolf? Like I don't understand. And that's what I'm saying. Like it is wrong, right? It is not a good mindset, and that's why obviously it doesn't happen nowadays. And if it does, it's just fucking, you are just the worst human possible. You're the worst creature alive. You know, you're not even human anymore at that point. But back then, like, I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. I genuinely feel like I'm spitting genuine knowledge, but as like a normal human, you wouldn't do this. But also, they weren't normal humans back then. Like they didn't have this right or wrong mentality like us.
And you really won't find locations more brutal than this one. But you can definitely find acts that are almost as cruel, and also...
I'm not saying this is right, by the way.
Such as a discovery that was made in 2023.
Now this
when the
is...
team stumbled upon a collection of dismembered body parts. Specifically, a dozen of hands that were unearthed within 3 separate pits. No bodies, just hands. You see, the courtyard was situated right in front of a throne room, which belonged to the Hyksos dynasty, a rather well-known group that actually originated in the Levant, and ruled thousands of years ago, marking them as the first foreign rulers of Egypt, with this site explicitly being over 3,500 years old. And they are well known for having introduced a variety of cultures and new tech to the Egyptians, including, for example, chariots. And I guess taking hands was a part of this too. But they weren't just taken for the sake of taking. No, instead it seems like these severed hands were used as some sort of currency. And I don't know about you guys, but humans constructing a society where removing hands is rewarded with gold or service isn't necessarily a place I'm trying to time travel to visit for too long, or really at all.
I wonder if it's like, because that makes you think. That makes you almost delve into this like concept of like, what the fuck? Like, was it a cultural thing? Did they pray to them? Like, because they put them in pits. Did they use it as like almost like a bounty? Like, if you like, was it just cutting off the hands of random people, or was it cutting off the hands of like almost like securing a bounty? Like, you know, you cut the ear off of somebody to show that you actually killed them, or all this instant, like all these like little things. Like maybe it wasn't used in the way we think, and that's why like I obviously you can't just condemn them because you don't fully know. It's wrong to cut off the hand of somebody, but we live in a time period where there's wrong that happens all the time, but you can't just instantly go, you're a fucking evil person. Like, I'm not saying this was right or wrong, but you also have to think that back then, like back then 3,500 years ago, right? Like back then, you don't know who was good, who was bad, who was evil, who was right, who was wrong. Like maybe they did this to like enemies, like who just weren't good people. Maybe they weren't the good people and the enemies were good people who got their hands cut off. You don't really know. So judging them based off of like right or wrong is a hard concept here. Like the people who eat people, obviously they were in the wrong. But in that same sense, like comparing these two very similar things, dude, what the, like they didn't have much knowledge. Like there was no like, there's no book that tells you, oh, you can't do this. If you do this, you're a bad person. It's just kind of like learning over time of like what's wrong and what's right. And that has to come with interacting with other communities. But if you have a leader who tells you you're doing the right thing, you're doing the right thing in your eyes. And it may be the wrong thing in somebody else's eyes, but to you, that's right. So it's such a, oh my God, the concept of right or wrong is so twisted because yes, you're wrong. You're wrong for doing things that are bad, right? And especially nowadays and just in general, right? But if somebody believes what they're doing is right, are they wrong because they're not wrong in their eyes? Yes, you can tell them they're wrong. You can say that they're wrong, but to them, they're doing the right thing. Like, it's such an evil mindset to like think like that because it really is true. Like, you can never tell somebody who's doing something that they believe is right that they're wrong if they truly believe it's right, because they'll never believe that they're wrong and doing the right thing in their eyes. It's so convoluted and fucked up, but that is like how some people work. And back then, this is totally different because they had no, they understood maybe right or wrong. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. We don't fully know. We're judging it based off of like our own thought process, but that doesn't actually say that we're right. Like, not sorry, that doesn't actually say that we know exactly what happened. We're only judging it based off of what we see.
And so what archaeologists think,
like, we're like, oh, they were wrong for this, but what if they were doing it because of because of a certain like group was really evil and they did really bad things, so they would cut the hands off of these people because of like their practices, making them the good guys.
Hands off the living or already dead enemies of their rulers, before making them look nice and pretty and presenting them to the pharaoh or some noble.
Also, to be fair, Egyptians weren't good people in general. From the knowledge we know, like they did a lot of things. There was a lot of things that were done, but that's of course also before they knew the repercussions of such things, and before they knew like all they like. Dude, it's just survival of the fittest, and that sucks that I have to like resort back to that, but it really is. We don't know enough to fully just put down judgment and say you're wrong. It's the same thing as the people eating other people. Yes, that is so fucking wrong to us nowadays, but back then that is how they survived. They looked at humans just as animals. Is it wrong to eat another human? Absolutely. But back then, they were, from our knowledge, if it goes on how evolution went, they were as closest to animals as they're gonna get, versus us who have like this thought process of knowing what we're doing. When we eat a human, if you were eating to eat a human, you know you're eating a human who can talk, think, feel, all these things. Back then, like, what was it like? Like, was it like, oh, I'm eating a human, I know exactly how they're feeling, thinking, and, you know, pursuing? Or was it just, this is another like accessible food for us? Like, this is food. Granted, they went a little too far and they went a little out of their way to do it, but you know how you like pizza a lot after you eat it, or you know how you like your favorite food after you try it? You're gonna want more of your favorite food, and it's disgusting to think about, but it truly is what makes like history is that there's such a difference from now to then, bro. Like, it's unreal.
In turn, they would have gotten the bag. There's also the suggestion that severed hands were a bit of a cultural currency too, wherein different rulers and people high up would show off by proving they had more sliced hands than the next guy or girl. And this all makes me wonder how many innocent people ultimately got their hands taken, simply because some soldier or person wanted some extra gold, or perhaps that a pharaoh just wanted to show off.
Money's money, man.
So far, a dozen of hands have been unearthed from this specific site, which by the way, belonged exactly to 12 individuals, who were above the ages of 21 but not elderly, and all but one were likely males, with the last hand possibly having belonged to a lone woman, which we know based off of finger length ratios. Now, to be honest, I'm certainly not saying this is the most brutal find we have involving people, yet I do think it really shows how strange humans are in a kind of bad way, where removing the body parts of your own species can be seen as a monetary.
I don't know. I don't think it shows how evil humans are, because it wasn't all humans who did this. But I think it does, because you can't say just because like 100 humans are in a cult that all humans are bad, or that it shows that all humans, it just shows how evil humans can be, because in the animal kingdom there are some that thing that they do that they don't like, and that they do that is really messed up. Penguins, specific dolphins are evil. Like, there's a lot of evil creatures out there that are like animals, creatures, things that exist that are just as bad as humans. The only thing is humans have this understanding of thought and being able to think. So yes, it is wrong, but back then that was the normal. Especially if you grow up in that, it becomes this concept of like, you follow what you believe in. It's called the sheep effect. You just follow the herd, and it is wrong. It's not right. And to us, it's definitely wrong. Nowadays, 2026, where we have this understanding of laws, we have this understanding of a justice system and all this stuff. But that doesn't mean we can just go full judgment and say, what you were doing was wrong and that makes you a bad person. Because was it wrong? Like, it was wrong. It's wrong to us, but to them, it wasn't. To them, it was their way to survive. To them, it was their survival of the fittest. To them, it was earning money to live. Like, I don't know, man. I don't know. I do think it is wrong. I think it's wrong. But you have to go ahead and go, what were they thinking? Instead of just, they're bad people.
Good and cool thing. And this all makes me wonder, how did we even go from banging some rocks together to trading numerous body parts for gold? Well, I doubt I, or anyone can tell you all the precise steps involved, but I can tell you about the oldest evidence we have for intentional violence between Homo sapiens, the real Cain and Abel, if you will. Rather, a person, or persons, who had inhabited it for a while and had seemingly whacked a few animals here and there, which were brought back to be grubbed up. Yet, among the pile of material, the researchers noticed something. One very odd thing. which stuck out like a sore thumb. Or should I say, a sore head. As
Human
it was
skull?
actually a large piece of a skull. And it didn't belong to no cave bear, but rather a human. To be exact, it seemed to belong to an adult man, which had lived in the area about 33,000 years ago during the Upper
Holy
Paleolithic.
shit.
Something else they deduced quite obviously was that this was one banged up skull, as the skull's right side had essentially been cracked like a freaking egg. However, the team wasn't really sure what this meant. They couldn't figure out if the damage had been accidental, like maybe it was a clumsy goober who tripped and hit his head, or if the damage came from something like a falling rock.
Of course.
And so this meant they would need to do some research, which entailed gathering what was essentially the...
By the way, I just want to put this out there that we also judge things based off of our deduction and our knowledge of other people's knowledge, because we're obviously not the ones usually doing it. It's like a very specific group of people, hence the Avengers of scientists or whatever. But we're basing this off of our research or their research that exists and them trying to figure this out. This actually proves basically nothing other than that we have an idea of maybe what happened, but not a specific understanding. And I'm not saying that there's scientists flawed. I'm not saying that there's issues with it, but that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that there may be an issue with this that would deduce the wrong kind of thought process behind this. Like you can deduce what happened, but you can't deduce why it happened. You can't understand what the reasoning was. You can take guesses. You can estimate, why did this happen? Why did this happen? Like, what was the reasoning? Why did they do this? But you can't actually figure that out because you weren't there. All we know is, oh, this happened like this. Boom.
Avengers of science, uniting researchers from multiple countries and carrying out a slew of tests and scans on the skull, which all ended up revealing a disturbing truth. Very disturbing. And that is that nothing accidental had happened to this man. He had been straight up killed. Intentionally, obviously.
Okay.
Specifically, they were able to identify not one, but two near identical massive fractures that ran along the right side of the skull. And guess what? The presence of these two fractures was huge news, as their identicalness meant that this man
awakened to
was hit repeatedly in the head
in Final Fantasy XIV Online
and had been hit twice in quick succession. And not just that, but that each hit was done by the exact same object.
Yep.
In other words, there's no way this dude slipped. Additionally, while comparing the pathology from the skull to that of those seen in present day, they confirmed that the pattern and nature of the wounds only matched damage seen in violent attacks carried out with blunt force objects. In this case, a bat. And with this, the team had a confident idea on what had happened. For whatever reason, 33,000 years ago, this man was mining his own beeswax, maybe, when all of a sudden he was struck twice by another individual, holding a bat-like weapon, with the first hit incapacitating him, with the second having ended him, likely via catastrophic brain damage. Additionally, this attack seems to have been quite personal too, as the location of the wound suggests that his killer was facing him head-on while carrying out the deed. And for whatever it's worth, it also appears that the killer was left-handed, given that the fractures occurred on the right side of the skull. And when looking at the age of the remains, it is for now considered the oldest near-conclusive evidence we have for intentional violence among humans.
I'd say, that's from what we have. Obviously, he worded that from the knowledge that we have. Of course, that makes sense. But I will say, dude, we don't actually know how much we that existed in this world, and if this really is the earliest violence. Also, we don't know why this happened. This violence could have been 100% understandable, but also at the same time, it just makes sense that it existed. Why would violence against another human not exist when there was violence against animals and violence against all of this and that to survive? Like yes, it's wrong that if this person was killed for no reason, it's like such an awful thing. But at the same time, it's like, brother, it was such a different time. 30,000 years ago. We have time differences from 10 years ago, from 20 years ago, from 50 years ago. Time was different. Even 5, man, times were different. 6 years ago, we were in COVID lockdown. Like, the world changes so quickly, but also slowly at the same time, that it gives us this precedence of like, we can't really say any actual opinion on what happened back then because, we can't actually say any fact of what happened and be like, oh, this was wrong, because how was it wrong if there was no right system put in place? The only thing they knew how to do was survive. It wasn't like, and again, that could be wrong too. I love this, man. I love this video.
First homicide. However, I will mention that this absolutely does not mean that in the first 300,000 years we've existed, there were no other acts of murder or violence against fellow man. In fact, it's guaranteed not to have been. It's rather just the first one we are aware of. But there is actually a close competitor.
I like that he hit on that. I was literally mentioning that we don't know all the secrets of this world at all. There are probably so many more instances of people hurting people because that's just the way life works, especially when there's no law system put in place and it's just the iteration of survival of the fittest. You're telling me other people aren't gonna hurt other people to get them out of the way, or because they're jealous, or because emotion still existed back then, man. Damn. I love this.
Russia around the same time, in what is now known as the Sahir Cave. Yet the dating for this one is a bit less clear, and the wounds found on the specimens within are not yet 100% confirmed.
That's a body? That thing's huge.
With them possibly having been accidental. But one interesting thing about human violence is that in some ways it does seem to be a bit like a fashion trend, where it waxes and wanes in popularity. Sometimes it's quote-unquote cooler to massacre, and other times not as much, thankfully. And actually, for a good duration of our existence, large-scale violence did seem to be rarer than frequent, with one hypothesis being that for a chunk of history, the population of humans was too low and too mobile for large conflicts to pop up often. Yet, as humans settled into areas
they
more
also just
permanently, developed more complex societies.
I was also going to say they probably just couldn't get into that big of a society, because if they even tried to get in a society of more people than a certain amount, it would cause violence and anger and emotions to arise to a point that was not handleable, like that was not able to be handled by such like one person or three people. There was no understanding of like leadership. It was just the strongest fits and the strongest rules. So how could you ever have a big society if somebody's always wanting to be the leader, or somebody's always wanting to be the head person? You don't want your family, who you love and who you obviously still care for, to be under watch by somebody else who you don't trust, or to be in a group where there's so many people that you have to watch out for them. So back then it was probably just easier just to go, okay, you know what, we're going to be in a group of 10 people and no more than that, because I don't want to have any issues that arise. Because when you get in a group of 11 people, 12 people, it starts to cause an issue, because there'll be this usually other men who want to cause issues, and they think they're better, bigger, or whatever. And it's the same thing as a zombie apocalypse. It's the same thing as so many different situations. You're always going to start out with a smaller group until you understand the grounds of creating a bigger group and how to handle that. And even still, bigger groups have issues.
And swelled in numbers, the opportunity and reward for violence grew exponentially. And really, as of now, the oldest evidence for large-scale violence dates to around the same time that permanent settlements became a thing. And the location of this atrocity that I'm referring to was discovered
because they want the land. They want the place they live, chat.
Section. And it really was a doozy for scientists, as within this narrow valley lay the remains of at least 64 near-intact skeletons, and a bunch of fragmented bones, most of which were in poor condition. And when I say condition, I don't mean bad condition from weathering or the passing of time. Rather, these lot have been brutally killed, with every single person having some kind of major injury to their body. And unfortunately, the slain weren't just adults, as the deceased were a range of ages and gender, with the indiscriminate violence even being extended to young children, as two child specimens, dubbed...
It sucks, but it's just about looting, getting the loot. They don't give a fuck about anybody else, man. It's just about them. That's it.
Abraham Lincoln united a nation that was deeply divided. He gave his life as a martyr.
JS-14 and JS-13 have been literally headshotted by numerous projectiles, with none of the wounds having healed, meaning they died then and there, likely alongside the rest of their family. And the thing is, they weren't just headshotted, but rather literally riddled by projectiles, entire body over. So whoever shot them clearly had no mercy in their heart. And
if they're killing kids, they don't care.
Was their extensive damage. And
this is what I mean. Like, yes, like there's different humans throughout history, but when there's no laws or no understanding of like actually respecting somebody else, like in war, like these people, like these groups, they went into this with the mindset of we take what we want. It's not about asking for permission or saying let the women and the children survive. No, because in their mindset, all they're thinking about is getting the loot, maybe getting the territory, and if they don't need the territory, they're just leaving and moving on. And killing the children and the wife is the best option because there's no revenge. That's literally what they would what they would think about, or they would just think, oh well, they're just in the way, you know? It's just damn, bro.
Projectiles that impact
it's messed up, but it is how like life works, man. We change over time. We've changed. We've become better. That's how life works.
And in general, it seems
30, 40, 50 years ago, like 6 years ago, and racism still exists, but it was so much more prominent. Women weren't allowed to do anything, and now we can. Like, and this is just one. And I'm not gonna say this like in a rude way, but light example in the sense of like further back, it didn't matter about anything. They just killed. They just killed if you were like, they wanted your loot, they wanted your house. Like, and like, it shows that times can change. That's all I'm really saying. Not that racism is small or that women's rights is small at all, because those are very, very valuable and important things to us nowadays. But back then, like, you had to worry about, it didn't matter who you were. You had to worry about somebody coming into your house and just fucking killing you. It didn't matter who you were, adult, child, women, man, black, white, Hispanic, like all these it didn't matter, man. Like, you were just, nothing of it, nothing mattered. It was just survival of the fittest, bro. If you don't fucking live, you're dead. And so it's just crazy how times can change, and now we're in like a better stance, and there is still wrong today, and there's a lot of wrong today, but it's crazy how far we've come. And I feel like so many people just look past the idea that the world has changed and it has gotten better, and so many people just like look at this world like it's so fucked up, and it is. But we should like count our blessings for the things we do have versus the things we could have, we could still have happen to us. Like, I know the world isn't perfect, it isn't at all, trust me, man. We all deal with our issues, we all deal with problems, some more than others, but man, I personally am thankful that like I don't live in a time period where I have to worry about my life. And by me shaking my head like that, it's more of the iteration of like, at least I wouldn't have certain issues that I have to deal with nowadays. But I also think that that's a horrible mindset, and I also take for granted certain situations.
All the victims received similar overkill treatment. And in 21 individuals, they even found the remains of actual stone-edged points that pierced their bodies, which would have been unimaginably painful in life. Lodging into their bones, or slicing straight through flesh into organs and other vital structures.
They just didn't even care, bro.
The shapes of the points indicated that the attack had been carried out with bows and spears, and at first was believed to represent.
You also have to understand that people back then killed to live. They killed animals to live. So hunting a human and stabbing them, shooting them, it probably felt no different than hunting animals. That is a horrible thought process, and there's a lot of things that go into that, like emotions, the fact that you're the human, you understand that they understand things, and you try to have a disconnect when you kill animals, and hence why hunters aren't just murdering people nowadays. But there's also laws and other systems in place that you got to think about when you think about, oh, is he really not killing me because he actually cares, or is he really not killing me because there's a law in place that says so? And this wasn't every human back then as well, by the way, who went around murdering people or just massacring villages because they felt like it. But what I'm saying is that there was these certain groups that just killed animals, so when they would kill somebody, it would feel no different as long as they viewed it as that aspect of killing an animal. Like, it's wrong, it's fucked up, and it's stupid, but it's if you delve into that mindset of like, damn, like that's really how they thought, that is so evil. It makes it from evil to this, man. It's like, damn, they really just said, fuck this is a human. I know that they think, I know that they feel, I know that they understand the pain, I hear them screaming, but they're just like cattle to me. Damn.
Between two warring factions. However, after some analysis, including ages and gender, a new conclusion was drawn: that the Jebel Sahaba was the site of not one, but multiple battles, and none against two armed groups. And to me, this isn't the greatest reflection on our species, where in the event that things get tough, instead of cooperating and trying to come up with a solution, the solution is instead to murder everyone around you, including children. To any aliens watching this, I don't condone this, and I'm sure we can do better, so don't wipe us out.
This guy has some crazy thought process to even put that in the video. He may be joking, but to even think about that, for that to even cross your brain, unless of course he really was joking, it definitely does show that he does believe in certain instances in life and stuff, and he thinks, I think this guy has an open mind, he believes anything's possible. But with that being said, I mean, if aliens do exist, like, they know what they're watching, that they probably control certain aspects of this. They probably, they like, as a civilization, the only way you can evolve is to see the wrong that you've done, to understand it, to know that this existed, and to never do it again. Like, yes, history will repeat itself, but if you know that the history was like the history was, you can try your hardest not to let that repeat. And of course, it kind of comes down to like, just fate get in the way of that. Do you believe in destiny? Does it matter if you do something? Will you actually be able to intervene with it? It's such a convoluted idea, but damn, man. Dude, it is fucked up what they did, but in this instance, it is because they had communities, they had people together, they understood what they were doing. But even further back, they probably had no concept of that right or wrong. It was just murder animals, survive, build houses, and continue living. Murder, continue living. Like animals and humans, it probably just, for certain people, they probably just molded together and they didn't care, because if you're living in a life where you're just running around killing animals and fighting people who are good or bad, you become this person who's just like, well, everything is the same. And I'm not saying it's good, but like you can like you have to like try to go, well, why were they like this? Why were they like this? Like you don't have to agree with it. You don't have to say they're right. If you say they're not wrong, you have something wrong with you. But it's also just trying to understand like what was mentally like in their brain. How were they thinking? Again, I'm a big fan of psychology, so.
Now, with this all said, while Homo sapiens have produced the most disturbing fossil finds by level of violence, it's definitely an issue not limited to our species. Rather, it's a problem for our overall genus, Homo. And thus, even the species that are no longer with us have been responsible for their own horrific act or two. This list isn't short either. Yet, what I think takes the cake for the most deranged discovery regarding non-sapient humans has to be something
I always hate the way they're drawn. It's so creepy.
This forsaken location is situated in the Burgos province of Spain, and is by far the oldest case I've talked about, dating all the way back to 850,000 years ago,
Holy
during
shit.
the early Pleistocene.
I don't understand the difference between time periods, but
it's
wow.
really multiple sites within one massive area. And through different excavation,
That makes sense considering times were different.
Each yielding vastly different finds from multiple periods.
850,000 years ago, Chad.
Memorable ones is a natural chimney of sorts that has accumulated the largest deposit of early hominins that we know of, with the inside of it containing over 5,500 skeletons. And get this, they didn't even all belong to the same humans, with some belonging to Homo heidelbergensis, others to Neanderthals,
What the fuck is the difference?
possibly to Denisovans, with the age also ranging greatly, with them being from
fuck are the ones on the
350,000
left?
to 800,000 years old. And along with the diversity in species, this site also had variance in terms of what it revealed about our past, as some of the deceased asserted, while others were evidently killed by their fellow humans via blunt force trauma, and some simply seem to have died from old age. Now, what we aren't sure
Old age
is
was
if
like
this chimney
40
full of
back then.
bones was a natural occurrence, like for example, with water having swept over the area and thus carrying all these bones into this location, or if it was some sort of burial practice.
5,000.
Yet, regardless, this isn't what we are here for, as another area of Atapuerca, dubbed Chinchera Dolina, is in some ways more important and definitely more heinous. Now, this wasn't some narrow chimney, rather a massive cavern that first started to be excavated back in the early 1980s. Interestingly, there are multiple different quote-unquote levels to this place, each one with a different sediment that represents a different time period. And thus far, there are 11 different levels which are dubbed
That's
TDs.
crazy.
Now, most of the TDs
Really cool
are
to
actually
hear.
rather tame. You know, you might find a tool on one level, some animal bones on the other, etc., etc. You get the picture. However,
What is that, 6?
TD6
Yeah.
was bat poop crazy, as here the remains belonging to at least 11 different hominins have been found. 11 different hominins that were butchered. Not exactly new news, but here's the thing.
Okay.
More than 30% of the lot had clear signs of having been cannibalized.
Doesn't
with
really
bones
surprise
showing
me.
death marks akin to a hunter's butcher.
Again, I just want to put this out there that they lived in a time period where it was kill to survive, survival of the fittest. Like you eating another human and somebody like that happening doesn't really shock me.
Animals, with observations
Them
also
liking
showing
it's a little
that they
weird,
were
but-
scraped, meaning whoever ate them wanted to get every last nook and cranny.
That makes it.
So
I
quite
feel like that
upsetting.
makes it even less. It is gross and it is upsetting, but doesn't it? That makes it even less like. It makes it show that they needed the food. They wanted the food. They like it's gross. It fuck me. It makes me want to vomit. But from an actual like a historian, like you want to like actually understand everything. It does make sense. Like they're using all of the animal that they killed, and it's fucking gross, man. Oh, but like, am I wrong in that sense? Like they like back then, no iteration of feelings, no iteration of emotions, no camaraderie really, other than the people they're with. They were like animals just eating other animals. Animals eat animals all the time. Animals eat animals of the same species.
But I'm about to up it one more time, because this wasn't a simple cannibalistic massacre, rather one aimed at a very specific type of person: children.
All right, and that's it. That's oh god damn it! I have something to say too. Fuck. Everything in this video is wrong. It is fucking disgusting. I really just try to understand like what they were thinking, but I will say, oh god, dude, this is gonna be so fucking disgusting. If you were to have a calf, oh man, eating a calf is just gross as well, bro. Y'all are, if eating a child is weird because you don't even get that much meat. This entire concept is weird, but yes. So like if you really want to take it and go, wow, bro, you're trying to like, I'm not justifying this. I'm not saying this is right or wrong. Lions and other animals, just specifically lions, that's what I looked up, eat other lion like babies. Like they will eat them in for certain reasons and specifics. And I'm not saying that it's right. And this is just aimed at children, which is wrong. And that's what makes humans even more terrifying. But in the time period like this, so long ago, like, the concept is they didn't care about right or wrong, so why would it matter if it was children, women, male? Nothing mattered. There was probably so much worse that went on back then that is beyond even comparison. This is wrong and this is fucked up and it should not be condoned in any way, but to understand it is like, why did they do this? Did it taste different? Were they just fucking weird? Like, well, they were weird, but were they weird beyond another level of weird, and was it for a different reason? Bro, all I will say though is like, me like delving into this and trying to like go into the psychological format of it and like understand the brain that was just basically another animal. They were eating another animal and preferred a certain age group of that animal to eat because it tasted different, is my thought process. Now, again, that pulling into the factor of is it right or wrong? No, it's not right at all, and it should be condemned, and it's wrong because they specifically went for this age group, which is just fucking freaky and disgusting and just awful. But brother, humans and things back then were, I wouldn't even consider them humans. I wouldn't consider a Homo sapien, like these things that we call human. We don't even call them humans. We call them, and they're they're in their own fucking demographic, their own group of humans. They're not called humans. They're called like Homo sapiens or Homo blah 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 blah, because they're not humans, because they're so close to animals that we can't even consider them humans. And yes, we're animals too, but we have right or wrong. We understand, we think, we do things, we act things, we know what is wrong versus right. And we wouldn't do this. A majority of us wouldn't do this, and majority of them didn't do this because it was such an extra like thing. But also, we don't know if majority of them didn't do it. Oh my god, bro, I don't know. I just think this is wrong. I understand, like, maybe there was like a reason they did this, but it doesn't make it right. Nothing they did is right. Eating a person isn't right at all, but different time periods lead to different results, and that's just the reality of it. It's not something you can go, well, yeah, you could say it's right or wrong, and that can be your factual opinion, and it's a fact. It is wrong. It is wrong. It doesn't matter if they believed it was right. It doesn't matter. But it was a time period, and they did what they did.
Among the dead, not a single adult human was found. Instead, all were either infants or, at the oldest, teenagers, with more than half clearly being under 10 years old.
Fucking insane.
Sickening. And if you do,
yeah, no, they didn't eat human. No, see that's they didn't do that. They didn't do that for any other reason other than to be weirdos. Like, now I pull back and I go, well, with the more like that I learned about it, now I understand there was nothing behind that. They just did it because they're fucking creepy. Like, they're
didn't think it could get any worse, then I'm sorry, as the scientists ended up considering this nutritional cannibalism. In other words, the killers viewed these people as just wild animals and flesh, hunting.
Oh my god, it does make sense. Oh my fucking god, that's awful. Chat, why would you go after an adult who can fight back when you could just, and if you're gonna eat a human anyway, just eat the kids. You can get a lot, brother. And babies, yeah, they're brother. Oh my god, these are not humans, brother. These are animals. Anything but back 100,000 years ago, I'm sorry, is considered an animal to me. Fuck, 50,000 years ago, I would still consider you more of an animal than a human. Like, anything that's not in the range of 50,000 or closer is not a human to me. They are not considered humans. Like, they had to live in such fucking horrible conditions, in horrible thought like ways. Like, it didn't get better until like way recently, and it's still rough, but it's way better than that. And the things they did, do not fucking condemn, like, do not say that they were right. They were wrong, and it's a factual thing. They were wrong. But in that time period, if you think about it, it is fucked up, but it makes fucking sense, bro. Like, oh my god, bro, if you see a group of humans, right, and you've gotten a lot of like leather and stuff, but you don't have enough, you could just get a human. Like that one doesn't make sense, but you get what I'm saying. Like, using the parts of a human to them would just be like using parts of another animal, because they're all animals. They're not humans. These aren't humans. Me even referencing them as humans, seeing another animal is just like, oh, like another human would just be like, oh, it's just another animal. So like, let me just take the younger one because it's easier to kill. Wow, it's messed up, but it really does fit like the animal kingdom as well, man. Like there's certain situations for like animals in the sea or other things that are smaller that have to kill the younger ones because it's easier and it's not as profitable as killing an older one, but they can't kill an older one, so they have to take the younger one. Fuck. It is messed up, grotesque, and awful, but that's what makes me realize these were not actual, like, these were not humans to be able to even do that. Like, people who do that nowadays are not considered human to me. They're even worse because they don't need to do that, and not in the sense that they don't need to do that, but they don't. It isn't like a survival of the fittest life anymore, brother. You can go outside and get a 9 to 5 and then make enough money to fucking live. You don't need to fucking kill everything you see.
In them like they would a deer. Additionally, it is believed that youngsters were targeted as opposed to adults because they would have been less capable of defending themselves. It would be an effective way for the hostile attackers to limit the growth capabilities of other groups. Nasty business. The part that really gets me though is that an analysis on the area and its surroundings that compared the rate of human bones to other animal ones suggested that during this region, 850,000 years ago, things were going just fine. There was no climate crisis, no disease going around, and in other words, these people didn't have to be cannibals. They just chose to. Not to mention that during the act, they even decapitated one of the young specimens, likely while they were still alive. And for now, this is considered the oldest evidence, by good margin, of cannibalism in the Homo genus, setting such a nice tone for the future, doesn't it? Plus, given its nature, it's the first case of cannibalism targeted at younger people as well. And while we know the rough ages of the slain, the case remains unsolved in one very important area, the species, as there is disagreement on what Homo these victims were. The candidates proposed so far have been Homo erectus, Homo heidelbergensis, or the Homo antecessor. 3 different.
I want to be 100% with you, bro. Like anything back then, when this was, bro, I don't care. They weren't. To be able to do this, it makes you not human because you're not on the same level anymore as another person. You're not in the level of like, okay, like I'm killing somebody who has thoughts and emotions. You're just killing something. You don't have the comparison of like, oh, that's another person like me. No. You're just murdering somebody. Like, and to you, it's just another animal. And that, it is wrong. It is fucking awful. And it's just such a stupid fucking concept that this even existed. But back then, there was no right or wrong in that sense. It was just kill or be killed. And there's free food right there. Why not kill the younger ones? Because we can just kill them instead of having to chase down an animal. What? Why the fuck would I do that if I could just like, this kid can't outrun me. This baby can't move. Oh, I would. Oh my God, bro. Oh.